We are getting a news alert on China and some hacks of U.S. agencies. Let's get to Eamon Javers. Hey, Eamon.
What you're suggesting, which is everything possible under the sun.
Department of Justice and the FBI have taken action to shut down what looks to be a large botnet of Internet of Things devices operated by a Chinese entity on behalf of the Chinese government, targeting U.S. government agencies, including the Federal Reserve. They're saying here that this large botnet was operated by hackers who were working for a Chinese company called Nanjing Jinjuwei Network Technology Company, and they were targeting the Federal Reserve, NASA, the Department of Energy, Department of Justice, Department of Health and Human Services, National Institutes of Health, and the U.S. Senate. It's a little bit difficult to sort of gauge how serious this series of attacks was, because the press release is obviously not giving us any detail on what exactly the Chinese were able to steal using this hacking technology that they put together. And of course, we don't know if this botnet is one of 10 botnets that the Chinese operate or one of 1,000 that the Chinese operate. We do know, of course, that the Federal Reserve itself has been the target of fairly intense Chinese espionage activity over the past several years. And so it may be no surprise that the Fed is on this list of entities targeted by this Chinese cyber espionage operation. But the U.S. government saying that for now, they have taken steps to take this operation down. Guys, back over to you.
Meantime, Eamon, I think President Xi is scheduled to visit, within a month now, right?
In September.
And there you go. Yes, apparently the Chinese groups have hacked into the U.S.'s stuff. Let's see here. The Feds, NASA, DOJ, what are your guys' thoughts on that? We know they said that they had their hackers outnumber ours 50-1. Do you think this is actually the Chinese hacking into all these, or do you think it's somebody else and it's just a subsidized, you would put it that way, group of China? But anyways, okay, let's continue on. Let's read this here. All right, so as I said, Fed, NASA, and DOJ among victims of Chinese state-sponsored hacker group. Court documents. All right. The key points. The Federal Reserve, the U.S. Senate, the Department of Justice, NASA, and other federal agencies were victims of computer intrusion by a Chinese state-sponsored hacking group. The DOJ said as it announced the seizure of internet domains used for hacking their platforms. The hacking platforms known as QScan and QT Router were used to target U.S. critical infrastructure and other sensitive networks, the DOJ said in a statement. All right, court documents unsealed in California federal court said that a Chinese state-sponsored group known as QTFY created and operated the hacking platforms. QTFY was employed by the name Network Technology Company, a Chinese-based company, according to filings. The DOJ did not detail the damage to the agencies or other targets from computer intrusions. And as you would expect, even if there was damages, you wouldn't say it. You wouldn't be like, okay, yeah, you got us here. Here's exactly what happened. You just wouldn't do that. That's not in the cards. They'll never release that out there because that's very tactful to not put that out there. All right. The Federal Reserve, the U.S. Senate, the Department of Justice, NASA, and other federal agencies were victims of computer intrusion by a Chinese state-sponsored hacking group, the DOJ said Wednesday morning as it announced the court-ordered seizure of internet domains used for hacking platforms. The hacking platforms known as QScan and QTR Router were used to target U.S. critical infrastructure and other sensitive networks, the DOJ said in a statement. Other targeted networks include those operated by hospitals, telecommunication providers, power companies, financial institutions, and defense contractors, a court filing said. So right here, they included the hospitals. Why would you want to take the hospitals down? Because if you can get the hospitals down, people cannot get their health taken care of. And what happens if it's a very bad issue? That ends that. So telecommunication providers, we have no communication. No one could communicate with anybody. If it's a power grid type, it's next. You just can't communicate. You can't call if you need help. You can't call if an attack is happening somewhere. You can't call it in. You got to deal with it. Power companies, such as probably the part of the power grids that they said they were going to knock down, and as I said before, if they take out the power grid, we're out for about 18 months, right? And if that happens, so much goes down. So much, because we no longer have defense, because everything runs off power. The U.S. is kind of would be naked and open to kind of anything at that point. Financial institutions, obviously I don't need to explain why that one would be bad, and defense contractors. Again, defense contractors, if you hack into that, I mean, they could possibly find out their plans, where are they stationed, all the information on who they are, their family, and they just deep dive into them if they got the information on that, amongst other things that they could possibly do. But that'd be probably the main reasonings for getting into there. All right. Other federal agencies that were victim of the computer intrusion by the platform were the Energy Department, the Health and Human Services Department, and the National Institution of Health, according to DOJ. Yeah, so Energy Department, again, the power. If you have no power, no energy, you really can't do anything. You just can't. Everyone's power to go out, your electricity go out, everything would just go out. The Health and Human Services, if that goes out, people on benefits would no longer get them if it was shut down, and it would basically send the country into a huge crisis level 1000. So, and the Department of National Institutions of Health. So, I mean, it's the health concerns here are already pretty bad anyway, so maybe they'll help it out. Who knows? Just kidding. Doubt it. But the Justice Department did not detail damage to the agencies or other targets from the computer intrusions. A Chinese state-sponsored group known as QDFI created and operated the hacking platforms, according to court documents unsealed in U.S. District Court for the Southern District of California. Okay, we already read all this stuff up in the top part. They were hard-coded. The department said that the seized internet domains were hard-coded into both QScan and QT router malware. The seizures made were QScan and QT routers inoperable, according to the DOJ. Attorney General Todd Blanche, in a statement Wednesday, said, "State-sponsored malicious hackers preying on America's critical infrastructure will be stopped and prosecuted. We are here to ensure safety for the American people and will use every tool we have to keep that promise." Federal law enforcement investigated and disabled the PRC's malicious software, the latest in a series of technical operations to dismantle and discriminate hacking activities sponsored by the People's Republic of China, Blanche said. So they got this taken care of. So supposedly, right? Even if they didn't, they're not going to say they didn't. It's just not appropriate to say we didn't get it, because that breaks the trust of the American people. So you put out there, yeah, we got this, and American people are the top priority, of course. Are they? Are we? Who knows? But like I said before, they said that their hackers outnumber ours 50-1. So is this just like a diversion tactic? Are they just probing to see what they're going to get away with and how long it takes for a response to it, and how fast it can get it up, get it back up and running, or anything like that? What are your guys' thoughts on that? Because this can go so many different ways. CNBC has requested a comment from a Chinese embassy in Washington, D.C. The announcement of the seizure of domains used for hacking comes more than a month after John Harold Rogers, a former senior advisor to the Federal Reserve Board of Governors, was sentenced to 38 months in prison for making false statements to federal investigations about sharing restricted information about monetary policy in the Federal Open Market Committee with Chinese intelligence operatives. So, Rogers was acquitted at trial of a more serious charge of conspiracy to commit economic espionage. So, Rogers is he's in deep. He's in deep. So, okay, that's that one. Let me know what you guys think on that. On this whole thing with Fed NASA everybody getting hacked. What are your guys' thoughts on that? What do you think they're actually hacking it for? What are they going to find? What are they trying to get out of that? Next we got here. Judge removes one hurdle for Trump mail voting order as states file new challenge before midterms. So, a federal judge on Wednesday lifted a major obstacle to President Donald Trump's executive order limiting mail voting, even as Democratic state officials filed a new court challenge with the midterm elections fast approaching. The fresh round of legal wrangling comes just 2 days after the Supreme Court handed down a procedural ruling in Trump's favor and could mean the issue lands before the High Court again before the pivotal contest for control of Congress. The first mailed ballots are set to be sent out next week. What do you guys' takes on that? What do you think? Should we do mail-in ballots? Should they still be counted? Or do you think that is not a good thing and we need to go back to like the polls where you show up with your IDs and stuff? U.S. District Judge Indira Talwani in Boston agreed to lift an order prohibiting the U.S. Postal Service from carrying out the Trump's order for November elections. She wrote that she was compelled to do so after the Supreme Court conservative majority ruled that a similar injunction she granted in a separate case was premature. Talwani nevertheless said that the executive order could unleash chaos and referred to it as likely unconstitutional. The administration can now move forward and implement a postal service rule published late Friday. It would require states to follow a uniform envelope style for mail ballots and give the Postal Service a list of voters eligible to receive them. So, it looks like some would be allowed to and some not allowed to. I don't know. It seems a little iffy. It seems a little spooky, if you know what I mean. I guess we'll have to see exactly what comes out of that. So, a new chapter in high-stakes litigation. The new lawsuit filed by about 24 democratically controlled states against the U.S. Postal Service marked a new phase in the high-stakes litigation. It came after the Supreme Court ruled against them in a separate case, but did not say Trump's order was legal. The High Court majority found that the initial Democratic lawsuit was premature, but that was before the Republican administration issued a rule governing Postal Service delivery of mail ballots. Election officials warn it will be impossible to implement before the first wave of mail ballots are sent out next week. Across the country, states are already deep into preparations for 2026 elections. Now at the last moment, the federal government is attempting to meddle in those preparations and potentially threaten countless Americans' right to vote. New York Attorney General Letitia James, one of the 25 Democratic attorneys general filing the lawsuit, said in a statement. USPS has no authority to decide who can and cannot vote by mail. The Trump administration plans to force a third lawsuit originally filed in May in the nation's capital, though courts there have so far declined to block it. So, it's going to be getting interesting. The country's already kind of wild as it is. This is just gonna add more fuel to the fire already going. I think this is gonna make it worse. I think everything just going on now in the world is just gonna get worse. It's not really gonna get better. We'll have to learn how to deal with it and move on and forward. As said earlier, with the AI data centers and everything, it's just getting worse and worse and worse. And China owning a lot of farmland property here. We have some other people owning farmland property here. So this just another thing to add to the list of stuff going on. All right, next we have the CIA. The Russian spy who was captured. This is coming from Ukrainian news. Russian mole exposing Ukrainian armed forces unit in Odessa region. So, I won't read the main points. Let's go into it. The security. So apparently, this is the guy here. Sorry, this is apparently the guy here. It's about so far. Anyway, the security service of Ukraine has exposed a Russian agent in the Odessa region. He turned out to be a conscript in one of the Ukrainian armed forces mechanized brigades who had been recruited by the enemy and was coordinating the aggressor's nation's shelling in southern Ukraine. This is stated in an SSU report. The investigation revealed that the soldier came to the Russians' attention while searching for quick money on Telegram channels. Their Russian intelligence officer contacted him and offered cooperation in exchange for the promise of easy money. After being recruited, the suspect drove around the regional center and surrounding areas in a rented car to covertly film the defense forces' bases. He also marked the coordinates of Ukrainian troop locations on Google Maps. SSU cyber experts uncovered the agent's espionage activities in advance, documented them, and caught him red-handed while he was conducting further reconnaissance near a Ukrainian armed forces facility, law enforcement and officials said. Man, this dude, I'm surprised they let this even out. I'm surprised he didn't just disappear, if you know what I mean. He is in some heavy stuff, but when you're gonna be a spy, you know what you're signing up for. It is what it is, but yeah. During searches, a smartphone containing evidence of his work for the enemy was seized from the detainee. A virtual wallet was also found in the suspect, which he had created in the hope of receiving cryptocurrency transfers from the aggressor country. Investigators from a security service informed the agent that he is suspected of treason committed under martial law, Part 2 of Article 111 of the Criminal Code of Ukraine. The suspect is now being held in custody without the right to bail. He faces life imprisonment with confiscation of property. So this dude, there was no details on it yesterday. It was just kind of like it came out or this morning, that he got caught, and then so now more's coming out and out. I guess we'll just have to kind of see what happens. Yeah, so that's all that was going on there. Here is the next one, but I have it right here. Russia waves nuclear threat at Japan as Kuril Island dispute escalates. The hits just keep coming. They just keep coming. One more, one conflict, one more that conflict, and it's just continuing. Got China on Taiwan, and that's probably why they said they've hacked our infrastructure stuff, because if they attack them, U.S. gets involved, they shut down the stuff. Now we've got it's just all over the place. It's just you got Russia, China, Iran, and North Korea. It's like a team up against the U.S. and its allies, NATO, whatever you want to call it. Hence why we all have our own. They all have their own sides and their little teams and groups, I guess you'd call it. And South Korea had reportedly declined to help the U.S. in anything. So I guess the U.S. has pulled their support and backing of them. So it's just getting wild. It's going to be like an all-out free-for-all soon enough. But let's go ahead and get into this article here. All right. All right, so I'm not going to be able to pronounce this name, but Volodin, Speaker of Russia's State Duma, invoked Moscow's nuclear arsenal while warning Japan over its territorial claims to the disputed Kuril Islands, marking another escalation in already worsening tensions between the two countries. Volodin accused Tokyo on August 26th of adopting increasingly confrontational rhetoric over the island and repeated Moscow's claim that the disputed territory is an integral part of Russia. Kind of like what they were saying about Ukraine. And I know it was a couple years ago, they were also saying the same thing about the U.S. with Alaska. you can't go back in time and start claiming things that used to be yours from a long time ago. So let's just see. Volodin then pointed directly to Russia's status as a nuclear-armed state while attacking Japan's position. Let them remember the times when militarist Japan killed millions of civilians. Now they are trying to return to the same rhetoric. They should not. A nuclear power such as Russia cannot be defeated, Volodin said. The remarks came less than 2 weeks after Russian leader Vladimir Putin traveled to Iturup, known in Japan as Itorufu. Sorry if I mispronounced that. On August 13th, in a visit that triggered a sharp protest from Tokyo. It was Putin's first visit to the disputed island chain during his time in power. So here's a little image of it, I guess. Where are we looking for here? Where was he at? I don't know. I guess the whole thing. I'm not even sure. Oh, this one here. Is that right? Where are you? Whatever. All right. So they're saying that. So right here, 1855, 1875. So you're going back almost 150 some years and saying like, dude, come on, man, get over yourself, get over it. Japan claims 4 southern islands controlled by Russia, known in Russia as Iturup, Kanashiri, known as Kanashir, Shikoten, and there are so many names. Really, come on. Tokyo collectively refers to them as Northern Territories. The Soviet Union seized the islands at the end of World War II, and the decades-long territorial dispute has prevented Japan and Russia from signing a formal post-war peace treaty. So there's no peace treaty between these two. I didn't know that. I had no idea, and that's because of these islands. Like, okay, Russia's just what? Power hungry and territory hungry or something, or what? Like, I don't understand what's going on here. Following Putin's visit, Japanese Prime Minister Sanae reaffirmed Tokyo's territorial claim and described the Russian leader's trip to Itorufu as absolutely unacceptable. Okay. Russia sends 4 missile warships near Japan after Putin's provocative Carolina visit. So it looks like, going off that and what they're saying here, they're going to take these back whether you like it or not. If you don't like it, then we're going to drop some nukes on you. And just imagine what that would do. Oh man. See, it's just escalating so fast, and it's just going downhill so quick. Japan also lodged a formal protest with Moscow. Russia, meanwhile, has rejected Tokyo's claims and increasingly framed Japan's position as evidence of renewed militarism, particularly as relations between the two countries have deteriorated since Japan joined Western sanctions against Moscow over Russia's war of aggression against Ukraine. So I don't know. That it's just getting wild. The news coming out, there is something new every day. There's something new every hour, and it's just going crazy. It's just going wild. I don't even know what to think about a lot of things anymore. I'm just like, okay, I'm just living day to day, because if you're doing one thing, the next day, next hour, it could be something completely different. Something happened, whatever you've done, does not matter anymore. But everyone needs to be on high alert for domestic, the terrorist groups that are radicalized here, that get converted over to whatever. What is it? They always say, see something, say something, right? Whatever. We had the same thing in the military. You see something, say something. And believe me, that works out more than you think it does. But anyways, let me know what you guys think on all these topics down here. If you have any more news about anything more in depth on any of these, or anything new that I missed, drop them down below and let me know. So yeah, we'll catch you guys later. Peace.